For March the 6th, 2020, we talk about the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo, World of Horror, and we ask you which games you love but would never recommend. Welcome to Level 319. My name is Cole Ross.
I'm Dennis Furia.
I've been David Myesmith.
And I'm always Jala-chan.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. Welcome one and welcome all. Welcome back, Jala.
Woo-woo! It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's good to have you.
Hey.
I know what you've been up to, but no, it's good to have you back. I was about to. Yeah.
We're about to party in person this coming weekend because I'm going to Arnold Classic. Yay!
This is true.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Are you worried about the contagion, or is everybody there so swole that the viruses just bounce off of you?
Well, I think that I'm pretty good to go because I wash my hands.
That's a thing.
You can't count on that at cons. You cannot count on people watching anything at cons.
Yes, this is true. But but at the same time, everybody there will be probably pretty conscious about that. Health conscious people tend to be health conscious about
a rising tide and all that.
Wait, but can we really call people that are 80% steroid health conscious?
Depends. Okay, the lay people who are in the actual expo or running the seminars, and the people I will actually come in contact are not those people. So
I'm just saying, first person to go out for one of the bikini muscle show-offs, I don't know what they call it, on stage, wearing just the masks as their thong wins the competition, in my mind.
Oh. Yeah.
Did you see the I think it was Iran's Minister of Public Health, his press conference he did?
No.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I'm way too plugged into the news. So if you ask, have you seen X, Y, or Z? Yeah, I have.
So basically for this, then it's come out that it was a press conference where he assured the world that coronavirus was under control, everything was great. The only thing is the dude was definitely super sick.
Yeah, he was coughing and sweating and dabbing sweat off of his forehead and stuff.
Ooh.
And it turns out he has the coronavirus.
Yeah.
It's hit the upper echelon of their government, and it's really sad. Like the juxtaposition is funny of somebody who is obviously sick saying, "Hey guys, everything's okay, don't worry," but I'm scared.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to throw a wet blanket on it.
Well, to throw a further wet blanket on it, my parents have compromised immune systems and are elderly, and my dad has breathing issues. Guess what?
Yeah.
All of those things are things that mean that the coronavirus is even more deadly. So it is definitely a thing that I will be washing my hands very diligently. I will be very careful about what I'm doing and cognizant and that to sterilize everything. And as soon as I get home, I am washing everything. The moment I do that anyway, I clean everything the moment I get home because I'm one of those people that I cannot rest until I unpack. But I definitely am going to be doing that as soon as I get home from that and kind of keeping myself away from my parents until I know that I'm fine,
Yeah.
See, my main concern is just that they quarantine the island.
The island?
Manhattan. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
That's what the Islanders call the island. Cole.
The takeaway is, even if you are hale and hearty, and think, okay, it doesn't matter if I get it, because I will just, it'll bounce off me. It'll be fine. And so, it's not going to kill me. Guess what? There are lots of people who are immunocompromised around you, and they're not just old. They're, people of every, just a kind of every condition. So keeping yourself healthy by extension keeps untold numbers of people around you healthy. So
Yes.
Wash your hands and don't just go into the bathroom and run the sink for a little bit like I did when I was a kid. Wash your hands.
God, at that point, why don't you just wash your hands?
I don't know. 8-year-old me, what the hell?
It's more about the friction of your hands than it is about the temperature of the water.
Yes.
But
is that right?
Yes, it is. And it's 20 seconds. So.
Happy birthday twice. And everybody go out. I did this about a week ago. Go out to a drugstore, something like that, and get yourself whatever kind of hand moisturizer will work for you. Because your hands, especially in the winter, are going to dry out.
Yes.
Oh, see, I was going to go the other way and, get some rubbing alcohol and bleach.
Yeah, no. See, all that will do, you'll do that once, but then you're never going to be able to touch your hands again. Yeah. Well, I'm excited that you're going to be up in the neck of the woods again, Jala. That'll be fun.
Yeah. It's been, I don't know, has it been 4 years or something like that?
This is something like that. Time is meaningless. Let's see. I need to see who was not on last week because I think nope.
I was here.
Yeah, no. Jala is the one person who was not here last week. So there's no obvious logical next person to go to. I don't have an awful lot going on by way of banter at the start here, so
you don't need a reason to podcast.
No, I don't need a reason to podcast. It's just not I've literally just been way too online and way too plugged into both the primary and the evolving global public health crisis, let's say. And this is not necessarily the place to do that more than we did. So I will cede the floor. Hey Dennis, how are you recovering from your strep?
Yeah, Strep has kicked the bucket, and I have not. That's a good thing.
Good.
So I'm feeling much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you manage to keep the kiddos and Jen healthy?
So Milo went down with it this time around, but we caught it early, and he's fine.
That's good.
Kids bounce back so fast.
Yeah.
Everyone else was fine. So overall, not too bad. It's been a low key week. We I think I talked last week about the neighbor that plays Quake that I've kind of gotten to know. Well, this is giving a bit of a preview, but we invited a bunch of the new people on the street over to hang out, have dinner, and play some games. And good Lord, Jackbox Party Pack is just bonding 101. Like,
it's great.
You want to get any group of people together and immediately have a good time. Do that. So that it's the most notable thing from my week is just continuing to get to know some neighbors by way of video games, which is always
awesome.
Fun. Yeah.
Great.
Otherwise, it's been pretty low key.
Very good. How about you, David?
Not too much. Just bobbing and weaving.
Yep. at this point, is it a conscious effort to?
Yes.
There's something. It sounds like there is a rusty swing set forlornly blowing in the wind on a deserted playground.
I want to give some ambience. Kind of some of that old Rust Belt ambience.
Yep, it's the Ambience Ambulance. So at this point, is it a conscious effort to say bobbing and weaving every episode?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really. You just throw it out, I weave in under it.
Gotcha.
It's the activation word for his sleeper cells, and he's using his podcast to each week send them out on their missions.
Yeah.
So, I do have another little thing I wanted to mention.
Oh, cool.
So, David's bobbing and weaving made me think about it. So, for people who do not know, who they should know, I used to be a certified Taibo fitness instructor. Taibo is Taekwondo and boxing set to music. So it is cardio kickboxing, the original version that became the cardio kickboxing everybody knows today.
Wait, I just realized, it's combining Thai, which means punch, and boxing, which means punch.
Yes, there is punching, but there is also kicking, but I did not make the name, so it is what it is. Anyway, my point being that I did cardio kickboxing, and it's been a minute since I did, and I started doing some cardio kickboxing or some Taibo here again recently. And because I've gone through all of this other stuff and this metamorphosis when it comes to my training in general, everything that I do is hard now. And so cardio kickboxing without impact doesn't feel challenging enough for me, because I want a bag. I want to punch something.
Okay.
There's not a thing. I don't have I have fit many bits of equipment into my very small office. However, I do not have a place that I can viably hang a heavy bag. So I think I might be trying to start up going to cardio kickboxing classes here soon so that I can hit things.
Yeah.
As a side note, we can figure out. I have several possible solutions for this. We can chat offline.
Ooh, that sounds like fun, because I do want to do the thing, and I want to beat things up. But a heavy bag. I really want a heavy bag very badly.
You guys wonder why I'm not joining you when Jala is in town. I just want to beat things up. I feel like really just wrecking someone.
Yeah, just cracking them over my knee like Bane.
What did you do that you need to be cracked over my knee, Dennis?
Well, if you don't know, I'm not telling.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask. I've seen martial arts dummies that have like a heavy base, but I imagine you have already looked at those, and the problem is less like a place to hang it and more just like fitting more things into the outbuilding that is your office. Yeah,
I have
they
very
also tend to move around a lot when you're hitting them.
Yes, there's also that. Like, I just don't have a lot of space to work with in here.
Yeah.
And although that works for the different types of things that I do currently, and I actually make this work as a home gym, people are actually often inspired by how much shit I can fit in here and how I manage to maneuver it. Because I do have quite a bit of stuff in here, but like, at the same time, yeah, it's just a little bit too much to try to fit that in here. So want to go to a place where there's actual equipment and people around and stuff. That makes plenty of sense. Cool. Well, that seems like banter to me. It was banter.
And I think that we ought to move along and do our regular kind of show with the grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss. And why don't we get started with the grind? The grind, where we talk about the things that are happening in the world of video games around us, as is custom. Jala, I'm going to throw to you first.
It is custom because I'm almost always the person who hasn't been on in a while.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not
going.
It's not custom that Jala goes first. It is custom that the person who was here, who wasn't here last time, goes first.
Yes. So the first game that I'm going to be talking about is Trine 2. I didn't really talk too much about Trine 1 when I played that through recently with Dave. However, this one I need to camp out on. I posted a link for you guys. It's up on my Twitter for anybody listening to the show. A thread of a bunch of really awesome Trine 2 screenshots, most of which are from the DLC, which is the thing that is amazing that I absolutely have to talk about. So for anybody who isn't familiar with what Trine is, it is a series of puzzle platformers by Frozen Byte. The first game was released in 2009, the second was in 2011, third in 2015, and the fourth in last November. So in this game, you can play solo or with one or two additional people controlling the characters. There are 3 characters. Trine, get it? Huh? So the first game was actually originally...
Oh, now I get it.
So the first game originally was single player, but after the success of Trine 2, which was co-op compatible, Frozen Byte patched in the ability to co-op the first game, which was really neat because I played a little bit of the first game, but I didn't play all of it. I played Trine 2 and really liked it. And I'm like, I wish Trine 1 was co-op, and then they actually did make it co-op after that. anyway, I'd played the main game before, but not the DLC, and boy, is that really where the game shines. If you've played Trine, but not Trine 2's DLC, you're missing the best part of the games. The main game for Trine 2 is 13 chapters long, and the DLC is an additional 7 levels. So that's a lot. That's like half. That's another half of a game that they just dropped in there.
That's an expansion. That's not DLC.
Yes, exactly. So in the main game, the heroes who bonded with the magical artifact known as the Trine, the knight Pontius, the thief Zoya, and the wizard Amadeus, are drawn into another adventure, and the Trine involves them in a sibling feud over the Fallen Kingdom. You go through a bunch of different settings, marshes, forests, ruins, caves, and so on. But there's also a Cthulhu-themed castle with a giant octopi and steampunk gadgets and a Nordic keep and a final boss with a massive dragon. There's this one funny part in this one level that has it's an ocean theme level. It must have been tied to the Cthulhu level in some way. Like maybe it was the overworld before you get into the deep dark abyss or something. But there's a point where there's palm trees and giant coconuts, and Pontius the knight, who is like the sort of very simplistic character, sees the coconuts and is like, "What are those?" And one Zoya, I think, says, "Oh, they're coconuts." And he says, "Those big hairy nuts." And it was the way he said it was just like so bombastic and hilarious and so outraged that it just was hilarious to me and Dave. And so after that point, then Pontius is like, "Why don't they call them cocoa fruits?" And so now they're cocoa fruits because of Pontius' outburst in the middle of this game. I was even trying to figure out the puzzle at the time, and then I wasn't really paying attention to their banter because they just say stuff randomly. But then when he just was like, "Big hairy nuts," I was just like, okay. that was pretty great. I mean, just the delivery was great, especially since it was a while since he'd said anything silly. Yeah. So anyway,
Can Amadeus cast Fireball yet?
No, he has never learned Fireball. Maybe in the next game. So, okay. So in the DLC, though, when they return home after they save this, the rightful heir of the Fallen Kingdom, who will now presumably restore it, whatever, they go home and they find that goblins are invading and abducted Amadeus's wife Margaret in order to keep the heroes out of the battle so the goblins can run amok. So the three then set out to retrieve Margaret, and this new quest leads them through the town's ruined celebration as the goblins storm the walls. There's wyverns flying around and steampunk mecha and stuff. It's really cool. And I need to stop before I continue talking about it to say that this game is awesome for its depiction of the goblins because they're fully intelligent. They have all of these amazing pieces of creative technology at their disposal. And more than anything you see the humans use, they have this tech. And they also apparently have this rich history because they have giant goblin statues out in this desert and goblin mummies in these ruins in the desert level that you go into from that initial level. Mm-hmm. Then you get swallowed by a giant sandworm, and then there's a totally disgusting level inside of its belly with pustules and throbbing things and tongues and bile, and it's just...
I'm always a big fan of the level that takes place inside the giant monster.
Oh my goodness, this is such a good level. I have several images of it in that thread, so definitely go take a look at those. It is amazing. It is so good. I mean, both of us were like, "Yeah, this is gross," but we were really enjoying it. We had such a reaction to it, so well presented, And then there's a climb through a ridge after you manage to upset the sandworm enough to have it spew you back up. Then you're off to an Eastern themed city in the clouds with, where there's floating citadels and stuff, with electrical tech everywhere. And at the end, you end up flying in a gothic steampunk air chariot to a floating volcano and get shot down by a goblin anti-aircraft gunner. And then you fight the final battle against a puzzle boss contraption thing that is loads of fun to figure out and defeat. So at the end, too, you even feel bad for the goblin leader because of how they frame that final shot after you finish the battle and kill him. And there's really just a lot of love and care that went into how the whole game played out, especially the DLC. So I can't speak enough about how fun this was to play. And this is an old game. This is like 9 years old. But I mean, I'm only just now getting to the DLC, and boy, am I glad that, I went through to play it. And Dave and I will be continuing on to Trine 3. Trine 3 is fully 3D and apparently the worst one in the series. They simplified some of the puzzles and some of the controls and tried to make it a little bit, I guess more streamlined or something, but that ended up to its detriment. It's also supposedly pretty short. So
when you say it's fully 3D, like, is it like a Mario 64
yes,
3D platform? Okay, yeah.
Yes, that is what it looks like to me. The original game and the second game are 2.5D. So, they're known for being absolutely gorgeous, very beautiful, lots of great lush settings. And Trine 4 just dropped in November, like I said earlier, and that one is back to 2.5D. It has really high reviews and stuff. So it sounds to me like they learned from what they did in Trine 3 and went back to the good formula after 3. So but I definitely had quite a bit of fun with this old ass game. So do you guys have any questions about that?
Did the expansion add any additional powers for the different characters? Is there like any mechanical hook, or is it more like a level pack kind of thing?
It's more like a level pack. You get the ability to level up all the different characters as you go through the game. And I played through it once, and then I went through again with Dave. And when I was going through with Dave, by the end of the game, I still hadn't unlocked everything for all the characters yet. So there's definitely a character progression that you can choose and go through during the game, but there weren't added moves or anything. The DLC was, it had more challenging puzzles in it, but not at the very, very beginning. Like if you had played the original game and then just got to the DLC and hadn't played the original game, for a number of months or years or whatever, I don't feel that it would be too hard to get back into it, because there is a ramp up to the DLC as well. There's a progression to the DLC as well. Just because it's 7 levels. I mean, it's got a lot, like another half of the game to ramp you up to get you back into the groove of how to play the game. So I don't think that it would be a problem if you finished the game and never got the DLC to go back to it and play it now.
And how long after the original game did the DLC come out?
I don't know when the DLC came out. I want to say it was a minimum of like 6 months after the game had or something like that. It was a while.
Okay. Not 6 months is not a super long time.
But it definitely, like, nowadays Trine 1 and Trine 2 is the complete story with all of the added extras. So at this point, the only way that you can buy Trine New, or Trine 2 New, is with everything in it already. That I actually like that too, that they just eventually just made it to where that's the only way you can buy it, is like with everything together, because that's how anybody going back to that game would want to play it, would be to play the full story, the full levels, and with that, it sounds like Frozen Byte really pays attention to what their fans are telling them, between them adding in the co-op element to the first game after it's been out for a while. I mean, like, it was after Trine 2 came out, like years later, that they went back and added that for the original Trine. And then, they released Trine 2 as the complete story, so you can buy everything together and, for one lower price instead of having to buy the DLC separate. And, with Trine 3, a lot of people didn't like it, so they went back to what the fans did like and made more of that, and it's apparently really good. So I look forward to playing 4 when I get to that.
Very good.
Yeah. So that's Trine 2. I still have another game to talk.
Okay. Yeah, you can go for it.
Yes. So I also played Apartment, A Separated Place. Now, I am dropping a link for you guys that has links to the walkthroughs or the playthroughs that I did on stream. So this is also on my Twitter. This is also on my YouTube. This is on my Twitch. You guys can look it up. I played Apartment in 2 chunks. One was about half an hour and the other was about an hour and a half. This game is about 2 hours total. Mm-hmm. So I've talked about this game previously. If anybody is wondering where they might have heard the name before.
Yeah, I was going to say, it does sound familiar.
Apartment, A Separated Place. I played the demo for, I want to say it was like 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I had actually liked it so much from the little bit that I played that I went ahead and bought it on the Humble Store, like pre-ordered it on the Humble Store. So it finally came out, and it's on Steam Early Access currently. It is developed by the Elsewhere company, which is comprised of 2 people, and it took them about 5 years to develop it. Their initial Kickstarter was backed by listener Greg, who's also a friend of mine. And that Kickstarter painted it as an adventure and visual novel game, but the best way I can describe it is kind of like a Surreal Gone Home. Mm-hmm. So it's a narrative-driven walking sim following the relationship of Nick and Madison, as well as the lives of people living in the other apartments in their complex. So Greg was actually unhappy and didn't like it because he doesn't like walking sims. And he messaged the creator, who agreed that there were a lot of changes from when the initial Kickstarter first happened. So if you Google this and you see the Kickstarter, that's not necessarily how the end product was. Right. Anyway, the lady is very sweet and messaged him back right away and, had a nice little conversation with him and everything. So, he felt satisfied with all of that. But anyway, I absolutely adore this game. I will tell you right now that this is one of my favorite indie games. And that's saying something because I play a lot of indie games.
You certainly do.
Yes. So I won't go into any major detail, but I will tell you a little bit about how this game works and what it's about. The stories are all narratives of loss, with some characters rediscovering themselves and others are kind of left open-ended, where the snapshot that you get of these characters, they're still in kind of a transformative stage. So sure. These are all relationship driven, but not necessarily all about romance. There's a teenage girl with divorced parents who struggles with relationship with her workaholic father, for example. And I can't get into detail about what all happens, but I can discuss how it's presented. So Nick and Madison, they are the main characters of the story. And it is this story for them is told by walking around their apartment and inspecting different objects that have different memories attached to them. So you're kind of playing like spot the difference, walking around the apartment to see what's changed since the last time you looked around the apartment. And then when you find those objects and you click on them, there's, a little bit of story. And then, there's a comic panel. And when you find all of these comic panels, you go to his art desk because he's a comic artist. And then you get a whole nother story, like another memory that, was related to each of these panels. And then once that plays out, you are moved into the courtyard where you can select between any of your other, neighbors in the apartment complex to see their stories. And you can pick who you want. And there's text outside of every one of their doors telling a little bit about what Nick's impression of these, this person or these people, is. And you walk into their apartment, into their space, and into their headspace. So the way that the neighbors' stories are told is really different. And it's different from how Nick's story is told, but it's also different from how each one, individually is told. But they all involve moving around a space, mostly seeking objects or trying to find your way through. The art style is really minimalist, with only objects of interest displayed in any real detail. There's a lot of white space and simple line art. The story is not voiced, it's told through text, but the text is not just words on the screen like in a narration box or something. It often leads your eye around the space or becomes almost like an object in the itself. And
yeah, like it'll be laid out diegetically, like along walls that it wants you to look along. Things like
along
that.
Walls, there are clouds of jumbled up words you can't read because they're all jumbled up in a big black spot. That signify different things, and so on. And so, as an artist who's interested in prose that manipulates the space on the page and the style of the text as a visual element to generate different ways of reading the content, and also as a comic artist, these things are absolutely fantastic to me. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is amazing. I love this. It's very, very artistically presented and almost Faulknerian in that it's a bit of what the internal lives of these characters are. Although, unlike Faulkner, it's not inscrutable. And it's written prose. Oftentimes there are just very distinct lines of text that get across the essential nature of the sentiment that they're trying to portray in such a way that it makes me stop and reread it and just go, wow, that's a really, really great thought or a very succinct concept in this sentence. And I, there were a couple of times where I took screenshots of just like phrases,
Yeah.
So the writing on that note is really high quality, as is the music. I really basically enjoyed everything about this game. It's definitely able to be completed in one session because it's only 2 hours long. Even if you don't like walking sims, I would recommend that listeners check out a bit of the videos because it's worth a look if any of this at all sounds interesting to you. It's really unique. As much as I can, I try to compare it. Oh yeah, like it's sort of like a Surreal gone home. Yes, but also there's like a lot that's very, very different, and not just because it's surreal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It looks like it has a little bit of like Unfinished Swan and Beginner's Guide to it a little bit too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something like that also would be a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
And unlike Gone Home 2, it is very much in the head of each of these individual characters. I think there's this one really interesting part, one of the neighbors, where he's walking along the street and you're seeing his thoughts down the alleyways and things as he walks. And then you get to pick his course and you basically decide what happens to this guy. You have 2 choices and there's like several of them in a row as you're walking this character through this space, and you decide how his story ends. So there's other things like that are just really, really neat. So yeah, like I can't say enough about it. It's really great, and you should just all play it, or at least watch the video if it's not your style of game.
Yeah. No, I mean you've given it really, really high praise, and I don't know. My lack of questions is not lack of interest. I just know that this kind of game is all in the story, right? And yes. That is something
it feels like something you should go in knowing as little about as possible.
Right. Exactly. And like, even the way that I've described it to you, when you go to experience the game itself, it really is an experience more than it's a game. And so like, once you interact with the medium, that's a very different thing. I will say that it has like a lot of points where I was just kind of self-reflective, because a lot of the things that are said, I kept on hearing myself say on my stream of it, that's a really real statement. That is exactly how that is. Oh, I know somebody who, I've been there before. And you have those kinds of feelings while you're going through this game. So
nice. Yeah. No. So just to report, so you talked about this on August the 26th, 2016.
Oh, 2016. It's been even longer than I thought. Okay.
It is episode 163, Beefy Mess. Yeah. And you also talked about Resident Evil 6, Transformers Devastation, Transformers War for Cybertron, and Rememoried. So.
Yeah. Oh, Rememoried is a weird ass game. So that's a game that, like, Rememoried kind of reminds me a little bit of apartment, but it's not as well done at all.
Yeah.
Like it's not the emotional experience. It's not like the anything.
Yeah.
It's weird and interesting, surreal, similar-ish art when you look at it, but very, very different and not as memorable.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Yes.
Yeah. So Trine 2 and apartment, a separated place.
Woohoo.
So when I put this in the notes, I'm just going to write apartment as a word without the dots, without the dictionary syllable separators, just so we can search for it later.
I was going to say to not fuck up every single search engine.
Yes.
Well, it is stylized in text A, with an asterisk, part asterisk meant.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's like a dictionary.
Yes.
Syllable delimiters. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. Do you guys mind if I go?
Jump in.
Do it.
Yeah.
You've hyped it up so much.
I know.
Have I?
You just said you. Oh well, I guess you weren't referring to games you've played when you were talking about having a week that you didn't have a ton to talk about.
No. As of the day we're recording, right now we're recording on March the 2nd, I believe it is. The Final Fantasy VII remake demo came out on PlayStation 4. So I've not finished it. In fact, I had to pause it in the middle of the climactic boss fight against the Scorpion robot in order to come record this. So things could change at the very end, but regardless, I've not really been paying attention to this game since it was basically announced. Like, you see headlines because everybody talks about it, and for a while it was kind of a punchline about games that will never ever come out. And, we've been waiting for it. What was that, like 2013 when we went to the to that PlayStation event in the theater in Oakley, Dennis?
Yeah, that was a long damn time ago.
Yeah, that was 2013, and that's where they announced it. So we've been waiting for this for a long time, and so I kind of went in like half expecting it to be some embarrassing nonsense, and half expecting, to respond to it, with nostalgia, because I'm only human, and very specifically like the music cues and motifs and like certain like camera shots are just, especially from the opening, are just kind of ingrained in me as an appreciator of visual and audio visual media. I have a tremendous amount of affection for Final Fantasy VII while understanding the backlash and the backlash to the backlash, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I'm happy to report that this is actually kind of cool. I thought it was going to be turn-based fighting again, and I would have been okay with that, but I think that the system that we ended up getting is actually more interesting, and having played it, I'm casting forward to like other encounters that I'm going to be doing when I play this, and I'm wondering how they're going to pull it off. So apparently this is the combat system is pulled over from Final Fantasy 15, which is a game that I played.
How close is that to 13, which is the last one I'm familiar with?
So it's a little bit more action based than 13. It is still real time, but it is more about like issuing action commands, and like you play as one person, you control one person, but you can issue commands to the others. And it's less about like setting up combo attacks or like switching your different like class modes and things like that. So in this one, like the actual combat kind of plays around like a hack and slash kind of game where, so this demo, it's basically just the first sequence of the game where you're playing as Cloud with Barrett and the other terrorists going in and trying to blow up a Mako reactor. Sorry, Mako reactor. That's so dumb. I've been saying Mako reactor for 25 years now, guys. You can't make me stop.
It's a Mako reactor. It's always been a Mako.
Yeah, but they never said it out loud.
But Mako isn't a word.
And Mako is. There's a Mako sharks. Anyway. Please forgive me if I say Mako reactor. It's because it is ingrained. But you're fighting you just kind of Shinra military police, and you're fighting guard dogs, and then ultimately there's the mini boss and the full boss of like the defense robots that are pulled in. And so like you play as Cloud, and you go in and you do like basic melee attacks, and as you attack, you do kind of like basic combos, and you have a block and you have a dodge. Everything charges up your active time battle meter. But yeah, when you fill up a node, you're able to do special attacks, which in this case are your spells and your like what would be limit break kind of things. And you're just kind of managing this meter while trying to keep the pressure on and keep the offensive up. And something that they have brought over from Final Fantasy 15 is the idea of pressure and stagger, which is, if you do enough damage with unique attacks on like a bigger enemy, like you have to keep the attack momentum up in order to fill this meter up. And you want to do that because when you stagger an enemy, basically they're stun locked and they can take no actions to attack you. And you can fill up basically all of your meters by going in and, taking them down. And like that is the way that you press an advantage against the bigger enemies, is to just literally keep the momentum up.
Are they pretty generous once you hit that stun lock point, or do you have to be very conscious of when the stun lock ends?
As far as I have seen, it seems pretty generous. I can see them closing that window though. Yeah. As it goes later on. But when you're in battle, you can swap between different characters. So you have Barrett, who people who have played the game know he is the guy with the gun arm, kind of the leader of the environmental terrorist group that you're in. And he has he has distance attacks, and he has thunder magic and heal, and like you want to kind of go and play as him when you are fighting against like flying enemies and things like that. But while this is going on, you can issue commands to the other people in your party, and when you do that, like it slows down. It's actually like weirdly a little bit like Mass Effect in that regard.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah. And each character, at least so far, they have like two different operating modes. So like with Cloud, he can, kind of just be, regular fast run around slashy kind of guy. And you can go into like a special, I think it's called like Punisher mode or something, really dumb name, but like it slows down his movement and it adds power to his attacks and gives him like a wider sweep. And so like managing those modes is an interesting way to bring a lot of texture to the combat as it stands. So like I'm pretty like enthusiastic about this system, guys. I'm really curious to see how the different characters are going to play. I'm real curious like how the materia system works, because that was a major part of, it was kind of the only way the characters progressed in the main, in the original game, was to power up these magical stones that you slotted into armor and into weapons. So like it's really mechanically interesting, and it like clicked for me in a way that it didn't really click for me in Final Fantasy 15. Like literally, honestly, it might just be because I inherently know like this is how Cloud should fight and this is how Barrett should fight, as opposed to like this is how the skinny guy with blonde hair should fight versus this how the skinny guy with gray hair should fight. So coming into this with like knowledge of what these characters are supposed to be, I think actually like weirdly enough provides me with the libretto that I would need in order to approach this with enthusiasm and clarity.
So semi on that point, just a question from someone like that's only played a bit of 7, is a little bit on the outside looking in. Is it just me, or is Cloud the least interesting character in any video game ever made?
Yes. Yes.
I think that he is plenty interesting,
No.
but only because he is tremendously fucked up in ways that in the initial translation don't necessarily come through very clearly. I think his blandness at the start and his just kind of stoicness, for lack of a better word.
See, I would have gone with lack of any character traits whatsoever.
He is far more interesting as a discussion of hero worship and trauma, and that is not something that, you know, comes through immediately. You have to spend time with his story and figure that out.
Yeah, and for me, it's just like okay, I'm a person who gets turned off when there's a lot of hype for something, and there's a lot of like people all up in Cloud's booty hole, and like I can't even with all that. And it's like,
you can't see what all the fuss is about. Yeah,
and the thing is that like I can't relate to any of it. And so there's nothing for me there, like not for me personally. So, you know, like for other people, maybe it's like, this character is exactly me. And if so, I am sorry that I do not like your character. But
well, I feel like the hype though, is it really for Cloud? Like my understanding is Final Fantasy VII is the game where you play as a giant sword that happens to be held by a underweight blonde guy.
People go hard in the paint for pretty much everything about this game, so it's hard to say, like, it's hard to, you know, to like identify like one thing where, you know, it's hard to identify and talk about like why people would praise like one particular thing. Just assume somebody has spoken about it in hyperbole. And also assume that because some, you know, people have spoken about it in hyperbole, people have rejected it out of hands, because, you know, the cool thing was actually never cool. And, you know, I rarely say this, but like generally with something like this, like there's interesting stuff in it that, you know, is resistant, you know, and the actual summation falls somewhere in between because it's like actually a pretty nuanced thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So beyond kind of the overhaul of the combat system, have there been any Resident Evil remake style subversions yet?
There have been a handful, but it's mostly like in the cinematic kind of stuff that comes along. Just like really small details that come through, and small like nods to, you know, like there's in the original, when you're running that mission, there's just a very bad like little timing mini game where you have to press the unlock button at the same time. It doesn't make you do that, but like the character who unlocks the door, he goes 3, 2, 1, nailed it, let's go. And that's just a bunch of like little tiny fan service stuff that builds up the character and the world and things. I think for me, again, as somebody who has a lot of experience with and affection for the original game, it is really neat to see. I mean, the characters being fully rendered in the engine, well, whatever, it's going to look better because the characters in FF7 look like awful Dorito monsters. But like the actual like spaces and stuff, they feel, you know, like it makes Midgar the city where the original game starts, and, you know, the entire setting for this remake, because it's only going to go through about like a fourth of the story, which is weird and misguided. Like the city of Midgar actually feels a little bit more like an actual place, which is weird, and something that I think is long overdue. So I'm excited to see that, you know, that the actual kind of boost in visual fidelity is being, you know, applied to make the, you know, basically like when you are working to save the world and when you are working to stop like the oppression in this city, like actually showing you the stakes is really important, and understanding this, you know, this place as a place where people live is pretty important also as well.
Or at least they lived before you murdered them.
Yes. You know, or even just like the shots that you see from inside like the Shinra tower, like the corporate tower, also very good. So like the addition to the, you know, the added fidelity, The added fidelity is additive. I'm sorry for the redundancy there, but I didn't plan the end of that sentence when I started it. Yeah. Some of the dialogue is pretty, pretty blah, but
Amy?
yes, specifically Barrett, who has a lot of like pro wrestler energy to him.
Oh boy. Okay.
Whereas like in the actual, in the main game, I more read him as like a cross between Samuel L. Jackson and Mr. T, maybe because those were the two black actors that I knew.
Well, yeah, like the only way to do pro wrestler dialogue poorly is to do it well. So the level of camp that's expected.
Yeah, his delivery is, really over the top, and the lines are like, okay, yeah, he's a zealot. Cool, I gotcha. But like, Cloud's delivery is fine, and they're doing a lot of stuff, they're laying a lot of really good track with like the depiction of his, weird little identity crisis PTSD episodes that he gets even this early on. So like after I finish this episode, I'm gonna go restart that boss fight and see this thing through, because I went into this basically knowing and expecting nothing, and I actually feel, yes, served as a fan, because I am a human and I experience nostalgia, and this is designed to exploit that, and as long as I acknowledge it, I guess it's fine. But also because like the actual specifically the mechanical changes that they have made are pretty engaging, I find. So yeah. Any other questions about the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo?
Will I like Cloud more in the remake?
Maybe.
Like, do they do a better job with him? Because, like, really what you're saying about, when you start the game, you just don't, you have to wait a while before you get into his character. And then, like, when I got into his character, it was like nothing really for me there. But, like, it depending upon how they do it, he might be more tolerable, maybe.
Like, maybe, his voice acting is fine so far. It's flat, but it's not whiny, and he is played more as like, especially in this context, a professional, like an operator who was hired and brought along on this. So, and that's the role that he's playing, is somebody, who somebody who does these kind of things, and I don't know if he will get worse or whinier when that front that he's put up starts unraveling. So it's hard to tell. But like if if when you read his dialogue you were inclined to read him like just a really bad whiny shonen anime character, this will be better than what you probably heard in your head.
I didn't, but who knows? I don't know. It's been so long since I played the original game, like I might take it totally differently now than I did previously, especially because there's a remake that is fleshed out, that is voiced, and so on.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
It's funny, if you projected a super whiny, annoying person before it was voiced, and yet everyone thinks that Cloud is such an amazing reflection of themselves, what does that say about your self-image?
I don't know. It's just
I can't relate to this version at all. This isn't me.
Yeah, and this comes out relatively soon. I think sometime in April, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, my interest is piqued. My interest is piqued and renewed. The other thing that I've been playing, and we don't have to spend an awful lot of time on this, is more World of Horror.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Game's good. Game is really, really good. When I was thinking of the games that I wanted to stream over the past weekend, basically nothing sounded fun to play besides more World of Horror. So I hopped in and basically said, yeah, I'll stream this for 2 nights. We'll see what kind of trouble I can get into. And I actually won a run. Like I succeeded. I don't know the name of the character that I had. It was the girl whose highest stat is knowledge, and
oh really?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
And basically like got the right, it was luck a lot of the time, but I got the right number of draws, or the right kinds of draws, to end up with the claw hammer, and basically broke through the point. I broke through the kind of reason and stamina drain, and found a way to take out enemies before they could do a lot to me, and finished it kind of by the skin of my teeth.
So you didn't play her as a caster at all?
I did, but I used that very, very sparingly, kind of like I was in a Call of Cthulhu tabletop scenario.
Sure.
Yeah.
The problem I've had with her is just getting any decent spells, because it's entirely a crapshoot,
Yes.
and a lot of them are kind of sketch.
Yeah, a lot of them come with really severe drawbacks.
Yeah. Like, my go-to is if you can get enthrallment, which gives you a ally, and if you can get basically the delinquent girl,
Mm-hmm.
that makes you better at just punching people.
Yeah. Have you managed to beat a run, or are you still
So I've beat a run with 3 of the characters, with the sports girl,
Mm-hmm.
Who's the dexterity focused,
Mm-hmm.
the pop idol girl, that's just like all about having tons of followers, and then with the nurse.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
and then that's actually what I need to go back to, because apparently there's a number of mechanics I didn't know about with her, because I guess it's like strongly implied that she starts out the game maybe not entirely sane. And it's like, and I guess like once you get to like 90% doom, like all your stats automatically max out or something.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, I was surprised, at the number of scenarios where you went into just kind of your like a unique interface, or a unique just kind of map for that place, different ways to pass time, and kind of like different basically resources that you were attempting to manage. Like I didn't expect them to change it up as much as they did, and that lends to a huge amount of, basically, I just kind of want to keep going back and playing this, because there's a sense that anything can happen. Now, I understand that, like, I've seen a lot of, if not all of the scenarios, and more of them are going to be coming out as this game goes through, like, early access. But it's super commendable that they're, like, really content to upset the apple cart and say, nope, the game is like this now, because that actually, like, that is the best way for you to play the story that I want to tell.
Yeah, and a number of the like this are, the game's kind of going to screw you over in creative ways,
yes,
which is fun sometimes.
Yeah, and
there's at least one mission that, I know if you don't play it exactly right, explicitly forces you to murder someone.
Yeah, no, I ran into that one. But it's not necessarily a lose condition. Something that I like about this is that failure is fun and interesting. Which is really good. Like, I really like a game that can make you feel good about getting fucked over by it. Yeah.
And there's actually at least a couple of situations where like some of the my runs, for example, like the it's not the nurse, I think it was the pop idol. Basically, you can, if you fail one of the missions, or kind of pseudo fail it, you get the enemy's weapon, which, unlike most weapons, doesn't scale out. It scales off of your knowledge, not your physical stats.
Oh, huh.
And so that's a way like you can basically, learn if you learn. I guess a lot of these are based on traditional like Japanese urban legends.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them kind of have the foundation of like, oh yeah, and then if you say their name 3 times, they'll, I don't know, come and ask you a question, and you have to not answer it, because if you answer it, they'll kill you. Mm-hmm. And so there's a number of situations where you can kind of subvert things by learning what you're not supposed to do and then doing it anyway.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed making the obvious dumb decision. And like, if you pass the stat checks, it's not, like maybe there will be a drawback with the benefit that you get, but like, it doesn't have to turn out to be a disaster. But like, fuck yeah, book bound with human skin. Let's crack the spine on that bad boy. Oh, it's made, it has a spine too. Here we go.
Yeah. There's some really good stuff. I'm really interested to see where they go with it, because there's already a lot of good things. I think there's a lot more they could get into.
Yeah, it's a really intricate game and very rewarding to see like the way that the different specifically systems and specifically like the number of ways that they make you desperate as a player interact. I don't want to talk too much more about this because I've been going for a while, and also people are really sensitive about spoilers about this. And I don't want to take the fun away if they, are, going to go play it here soon. But yeah, basically I need to figure out a way to get like automatic updates when they push out new content on this bad boy, because I adore this game quite a bit. It's really, really good. Yep. Yeah.
Glad you're enjoying it.
Any other questions about World of Horror? Okay.
So actually, I did have a question, just because I know you're a lot more plugged into some of the like backstory and illusions the game's making, stuff like that. The fact that the all of the shops in the game are staffed by a little Shiba Inu dog. Is that a reference to something, or is that just being cute?
I think that's just being cute. If it is a reference to something, it is a thing that I, don't know and don't understand. It might be a reference to the Silent Hill UFO and dog endings.
Oh, okay, sure.
Where it's kind of revealed that a Shiba Inu pup is responsible for everything that happens. But that seems both likely and unlikely. Also, David, have you booped the dog's snoot?
No, I've not gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, click on the dog's nose.
This happened the other day.
Someone in the chat said, Cole, don't click on the dog's nose, which is exactly the way you get me to click on the dog's nose, is to tell me not to do it.
A game like this.
Yes. But no, it's cute and adorable. Jala, you were in the you were in the chat there for a little bit. Did you have any questions about World of Horror?
No, I want to play it. I didn't even want to be in the chat because I didn't want to spoil it. So I showed up for a little bit, and I'm like, I've spoiled enough. I must leave.
Yeah. So. I understand.
If you figure out a way to beat the Yakuza guys run, let me know, because I have no idea how that's viable.
Okay. I will let you know. David, so you have done World of Horror, so I'm going to throw it to you to ask what else you've been doing.
Sure. So other than that, I've actually got back into The Division 2.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Just because they put out that expansion, right?
Right, exactly. So the expansion just came out today. It's called Warlords of New York.
Okay.
And it's kind of the them actually getting back to resolving the plot line that they kind of abandoned after the first game. So it takes place in southern Manhattan, and basically you're going after a series of division agents that went rogue and stole a copy of the virus that has wiped out the world.
Okay.
Because clearly what I need right now is a game where my home is, suffering from a global pandemic.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit like me reading The Stand right now, or rereading The Stand.
Yeah, exactly. So a little interesting tone there, but it's interesting seeing, though, the first game takes place in the winter during a freak blizzard. And so, everything's, just completely white out conditions, that sort of thing. Whereas now, by this point in the timeline, it's the summer. So very different look. Also, the first game took place in Midtown, whereas this is the southern end of the island. Kind of interestingly, I posted a series of screenshots. So the first one is my apartment building.
Comforting.
And the second one is actually the lobby of my apartment building. You can in fact, go inside.
Wow.
That is... all right.
So it's kind of weird. Like, the inside doesn't look anything like it, but you can, strictly speaking. It is interesting, though, because, I'm sure what they did is, did some sort of, I don't know, street view, 360 camera, something like that, and then, actually, rendered it, because it's definitely, like, it's very recognizably supposed to be my building.
Yeah.
However, it's also not just, like, a copy of it. So, like, one of the most interesting things is I can tell whenever they got the source material for it, it was probably last fall, because the building is all surrounded by scaffolding, which has since been taken down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, like, that's although that is, interestingly enough, one of the ways that, like, I can tell it was definitely meant to be my building. And in particular, there's a bar on the first floor.
Okay.
That kind of an outdoor bar that, although in this version it's a coffee shop.
It's still recognizable.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of the expansion, that's almost all of what I was able to see. I just kind of, since it came out today, just kind of logged in enough to run and do that before the show. Although it is interesting, it seems like they're finally committing to exploring the idea that the Division is a really, really bad idea.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just, the fact that, like, having completely unaccountable, paramilitary people just, like, living in the general population is, a recipe for, just everything to go bad.
But definitely not political. Not political at all.
Definitely not. No politics here.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking forward to that. We'll see how far they actually go. They definitely want the game to be kind of their equivalent of, like, the Forsaken King, where this is kind of them making good.
Yeah.
So they've also done a lot of quality of life improvements. Most notably for me, they've significantly simplified the gear system, because as it was just really, really complicated, and getting good rolls basically required a ton of just juggling and keeping you have the ability to recalibrate your guns, where you can take an ability off one gun and put it on the other. But the way it was implemented, there are so many different variables that you just had to have your entire inventory full of weapons to be able to put together what you need. So they've now both streamlined the system so that the weapons basically, rather than having kind of individual stats, they tend to much more orient towards like, this is a gun that makes you better at skills. This is, armor that's oriented towards, your physical abilities or your shooting ability, those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And then also they made it so that basically when you get a item with a certain drop rule, you can deconstruct it, and then at any point you can craft an item that has that role for that stat. And then if you find another item that has a better score in that stat, you can deconstruct it again to replace it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a thing where over time you can basically build up to the best gear in the game without having to have one single time that you got a lucky drop. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so far, so good. Looking forward to, there's a lot of things the game does well. There's a lot of things they've done very, very poorly. So I'm hoping maybe this will be kind of the situation where everything comes together.
I mean, so far so good.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely have the location right. It does a little bit bother me. They've added some new classes, and they've done one of my pet peeves of like having one of the classes be all about incendiary weapons. It's like, maybe not have your character commit war crimes every time you fight.
A little bit.
But that's just kind of part of gaming, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. If that is all, Dennis, how about you? What you been playing?
Yeah. So I've put more time into some old standby favorites. Been playing a lot of The Cycle. And that is really fun. Have I talked about the competitive mode in that on this before?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's just very interesting in some ways because, this game is kind of in live development as everyone is playing it. So early access. And it's interesting to see the way that they kind of tweak things, significantly change the behavior in competitive mode. So normally outside of competitive mode, I would say my favorite mode, there's solo, duo, and squad. My favorite mode is easily solo. Just that I feel like that's got the best feel to it. There's kind of this fun element of being able to pact up with random people you encounter in the world. So every encounter feels non-binary in terms of like, it's not just I see you and then I shoot you until you die. Yeah. It's like, well, we could be friends, or we could decide to go separate ways or whatever. However, they've decided to take away pacting in solo mode in ranked solo. Yeah, so taking away pacting in ranked solo. It's still in the non-ranked version, but I guess they just decided nobody used it or something like that. But that combined with another decision, which is to directly reward kills with victory points, has caused ranked solo to feel almost unplayable for me.
Jeez.
So
it incentivizes the exact kind of play that you would come to the cycle to avoid.
Exactly. Yeah. Or at least, come to the cycle to have other options than that being the only thing. Right. And they've just progressively taken away all the verbs that made this game unique until it's literally, I think the thing that makes it different in ranked, I do like duo mode where you drop in teams of 2. And so there's 10 teams of 2. In solo mode, it's just 20 individuals dropping down. And I think what I've pinned it down to is, when you drop, you all drop kind of spaced out around the perimeter of the map. And in solo mode, when everyone is, super try-harding and knows they're not going to make any friends and, is in this ranked atmosphere, it just leads to immediate combat. I mean, within 30 seconds of hitting the map, you are in a gunfight to the death with someone.
Wow.
Which is just so, different than the cycle that I get really excited about. And so in duo mode, I think just 10 people around the perimeter of the map gives a little more breathing room before you get into conflicts.
Yeah.
That makes it still feel like this kind of really cool player versus environment versus player concept that the cycle is. But man, it sucks to see ranked solo in what I feel is a really bad place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been putting a lot of time in. There's the new map has now entered the ranked queue. So it's cool to kind of see that in action and have that next level of play there as well with kind of more variety in the maps. And I think that might cure some of it because the second map is larger. And so there is, just physically more space between you and other players when you drop in ranked solo. And so maybe that's where the problem lies. I never would have thought of the first map as small or cramped until like I had
only in comparison. Yeah.
Right. And so maybe that's what needs to happen is the map just needs to expand a little bit or something like that. But yeah, does the
game punish you for playing unranked?
No, aside from the fact of, you don't get any kind of persistent feedback on how you're doing.
Yeah.
Sure. But you can still unlock things and stuff like that.
Correct. Yep. So yeah, it is a hand on the stove situation where the way to pull it off is just to get out of ranked for that mode. Yeah. But their player base is still small enough that squad ranked is always available, and then they will have either ranked solo or ranked duo available in addition to that. And that's just the way they keep the community from being split up too much. And so that's, it is a temporary problem. Eventually I just will never have to worry about whether or not, my preferred version of ranked is available. But yeah, it's just an interesting observation from my last, couple of play sessions.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's the cycle. I still highly recommend the game. But I have high hopes that the VP for kills, victory points for kills, will be removed, and that they will find some other ways to kind of make ranked solo feel less samey to every other battle royale out there. But until then, I'll keep you posted. So cool. That's the cycle. I'm sad Ben wasn't here. I have also been playing Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So picked this up as a birthday present, I believe. And this was informed by Ben's recommendation on what to get. So he and I have a really good system going where, his mom asks me what to get him. And then apparently my mother and father-in-law ask him what to get me. So it's all perfect. Nice. And Super Mario Odyssey is just a perfect exercise in the science of delight.
Okay.
Like the creators of Mario, and we've seen this for a long time, but they know how to just pack every single inch of every level with delightful little surprises. There's never a moment where you kind of say, oh, I wonder what's over there. And the answer is not fun and interesting, and even different than you'd expect. So that is really cool. I'm trying to think, how much detail I need to get into about a Mario game, which is a formula that everyone is probably very familiar with.
Yeah. What was the last 3D Mario game that you played?
Oh, 64.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of Galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's specifically harkening back to the 64 and Sunshine style of game. So, I mean, do you find yourself, because like for me, I was pretty much in the exact same boat. It was really comforting to come in and like already have a pretty good grasp on how to move Mario around from having played Mario 64. Like, did you find that was your experience too?
Yeah, it just feels very natural. which again, that he is the character that is the reference for platformers everywhere. So it's kind of hard to mess up. But yeah, the kind of callback to 64 is definitely relevant. The way that the worlds or kingdoms are structured, and kind of going between them. I absolutely love. I don't think this is giving away too much. One area is like a garden world. And you spawn and you see these robots moving around all over the place. And, that is such a cliche of like, okay, it's the machines versus the plants, it's the bad guy metalwork creatures taking over, nature. But when you then actually go interact with it, I actually went and tried to hit or jump on the first robot that came my way. And then you realize, oh wait, no, these are actually like the good guys. They're the caretakers. They are, the like NPCs that populate the world, and they actually care for the garden. They are the gardeners, and it's just little moments like that kind of flip what you expect on its head. That is, the game, every single bit of it is kind of from that angle. The really cool thing is that Jen has been playing it alongside, not a 2-player, but like she started a campaign, I've got a campaign going. And so we'll both kind of take turns playing and doing our own thing. It's very interesting to see our different approaches to the game world, because I'll kind of critical path Johnny it a little bit, where I won't get the bare minimum amount of moons to get to the next kingdom, but I'll kind of I'll hit the highlights, and I won't spend too much time searching for every little nook and cranny. Before I move to the next kingdom, just figuring like, hey, I want to see the game and then I'll come back and get everything. Whereas Jen is very methodical about exploring everything before she moves on. And that still means that there's a lot of stuff she's not finding. Like you can see a list of the moons to unlock. And I think it was like in the first or second kingdom where I walked in and I saw that she had probably, 2.5 times the number of moons I found. I was like, oh my gosh, you must have really scouted. She's like, yeah, I think I'm getting pretty close to finding everything. And, if she had 20 moons, she opened up the list and there's like 50.
Yeah.
that you can discover.
Yeah. That's the thing, especially about, modern-ish Mario games, is that like you roll credits and you're like a third of the way through because new stuff comes in. Like, and it like that's where the real game starts, because they start actually like making it full challenge and stuff like that.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. So it is even with someone being very methodical and searching every inch, there's still so much depth there to discover. And I'm sure some stuff that will only really even be accessible your second or third or whatever time through. But even on this first playthrough, like it is not uncommon that I'll walk into the room and be like, okay, I know what kingdom you're in, but you are in a part of this kingdom that I never knew existed, or like even on the first pass, the depth that's there, if you're willing to explore, is surprising. That has also opened up Luke and Milo watching, and they enjoy kind of watching us play. Yeah. And let me tell you what, there is nothing more infuriating than like missing a jump or screwing something up, and your 5-year-old being like, well, see, you did it all wrong. Here's what you needed to do. Like, I know. The point of the game is that it's hard to do. It's easy to know what to do. It's hard to do it. Stop telling me what to do.
You should send him into Twitch chat.
Basically, that's what this is like a live little Twitch chat. But then poor Jen has it 3 times worse, because usually they have seen me do it once. And then so they are intent on pointing out anything that I like saw or did that she did not do
that's
the first
rough.
time through. And they've literally been sent out of the room for spoiling stuff.
That is very funny.
So it's an exercise in like, all right, you can watch, but don't give stuff away. Like we are teaching the concept of spoilers live in the Furia household.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very good thing. You're making the next generation better.
Yeah. But it's been a ton of fun, both to watch and to play.
Cool.
And saying New Donk City is never not going to just make me smile.
No, it's a kind of a perfect combination of syllables.
Yeah, it's all the right sounds together in the right order. So yeah, that's Super Mario Odyssey. Again, I'm really turning into a Nintendo fan here.
Yeah,
which I guess happens when you bring the console home.
Yeah, no, like the Switch makes it real easy to like be super enthusiastic about these games.
Mm-hmm. Which, you know, I feel like I couldn't quite say it with like the Wii U and whatever. Like, just this is the system where it all clicks. See what I did there?
I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, the sound that it makes when you put the Joy-Con in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay,
which is super satisfying.
Yeah,
and on that note, the final thing that we've been playing, which this is like my reports are increasingly becoming Furia family reports, which is really fun. Like
that's fine.
It's a fun stage of life to be entering. But we got Just Dance for the kids,
cool,
and for us too. But and we busted that out last night for the first time. And
this on the Switch?
Is that a ton of fun. This is on the Switch, yeah. So. You hold a Joy-Con in your right hand, and it's effectively DDR following the silhouette, and it just measures how well you follow the silhouette on the screen.
Yeah.
And it is, it's super duper forgiving. I don't think it's possible to fail a song. And no shortage of fun to be had, just dancing along or watching your kids dance along to the pop hits, which is fantastic. The one complaint I have is just about the way they present their songs. So we jump in. This is the first time playing it, and the kids are all excited. And we go to the song list, and it's like, okay, what do you want to play? Like, what are some pop songs they would recognize? And they have High Hopes by Panic at the Disco, which is very popular among the children in the house. And so they get all excited. Yeah, let's do that one. And I go and I hit the button to get it started up, and then it jumps me over into campaign mode. Come to find out, it will show you the song. You can select the song, but you can't actually play it unless you've beaten campaign mode to unlock it.
What?
And I just like,
okay, that's bullshit.
Why would they do that? Like,
I don't know.
Like literally every other game has figured out that you don't do that. You keep it. Huh.
So just a needless bait and switch that I can't say it put much of a damper on the mood, but there was a second of just like, what the someone must have hit
kids are excited to dance to a song they know, and it's like, no, sorry, the game says we didn't work hard enough.
Guess you got to do 6 Katy Perry numbers and a Japanese song called Chihuahua that might as well have dropped LSD for. Like, it was still fun. It was just not the fun we were expecting to have. But so that's Just Dance. They've got the routines where each person is doing like a different part, and that is very entertaining to watch. It's a small miracle that no one got punched in the face or knocked down during the dancing of those songs. But it was a ton of fun and a nice little avenue for entertainment for us.
I know that I'm being a parody of myself, or a parody of a cranky a cranky unattached person, just like I'm not plugged in. Like, I recognize some of the artists, either because they're throwbacks, or they are just like in the news, or you hear radio commercials about them. But like literally the only one of these that I've like intentionally listened to music by is Chromeo. And that track that's on here is from 2007. Weird.
Yeah, such is your prerogative. You have earned your right to be uninformed in the music scene.
Probably, yeah. I am comfortable with my Canadian indie pop from the mid 2000s.
To be fair, it's hard to dance to the Shins.
Yeah. I understand. And also, not everything needs to be made for me. There's also that. Yeah.
But there's Billie Eilish, Panic at the Disco, Ed Sheeran. Like it's a very A-list of artists and songs and stuff that they recognize or the kids recognize from the radio. Which
weirdly stuff from Monty Python.
Don't look at it too hard, otherwise it stops making sense. But
Monty Python, okay.
Yeah, no, they've got Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, which
okay.
Very funny.
It's, what's funny, or what's just fun, is the costuming that they do. And I'm not familiar with but to be specific, this is Just Dance 2020. I'm not familiar with how they've done costuming in past versions of the game or whatever. But whoever was in charge of how these dancers were going to be dressed just had a field day. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So it was like, what if it was a dress, but it was square? Let's do that.
Very cool.
You get in the panda suit. Like
you make the intern get in the panda suit.
Yeah, intern's got moves. But yeah, so it's just a good time all around.
Nice.
Make sure you scoot your furniture nice and far back though.
Oh, my living room is wide open because of VR stuff.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the big stuff for me.
Cool. That sounds like a segment to me.
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and then you answer. Hey, Dennis, I see that you posted this one. What'd you ask the nice people?
Yes, I did. So I wanted to know about the broken, infuriating piles of junk that we kind of like, but would definitely not recommend to anyone else. So what's a game that you're fond of, but you wouldn't advocate for anyone else playing?
Yes. This is a favorite category of game for me. This is where some of my favorite stuff rests. The indefensible.
Well, and my hypothesis here is that is the truth for a lot of people. That it's like the thing I like the most is the thing that I know other people will like the least.
Yes,
actually, that's it. I'm a rogue. That's not the case for me. I just would have like specific, there's specific games that I like that are very niche that I would only recommend to specific individuals because I know that it's like harder to get into, but that's about it. Like there's not really, I didn't have like a definitive answer. So spoiler.
So I'll take us in here with Lindsay, who says Bugs Bunny's Birthday Blowout was an action platformer on NES. Movement was crap, fighting was bad, and the platforming sucked because you might not be able to stop. But I loved this game as a kid, mainly due to my dad playing it with me.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. That's a perfectly good reason to like a thing. Personal experience. Some of those oh gosh, Looney Tunes games were actually good because they were designed or they were reskin versions of other things.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, this was a Chemco game. Huh. Cool. I just wanted to see because I recognize the name and I recognize the cover. Hey, Greta.
Yeah, I wanna say there was a Looney Tunes game on Game Boy that my brothers and I were huge fans of.
Crazy Castles, probably.
Crazy Castle, yep, that was it. And I think that was a reskin of some other game as well.
Yeah, it was like a puzzle, not like puzzle platformer, but you get the idea. Like a Lord Rider kind
notably, there was no jumping in the game, I believe.
Yes, yeah. Let's see. David, what does Martinez say?
Martinez says, I have lots of loves for Lords of the Fallen, as it was my very first Souls-like that I actually managed to beat. I spent countless hours with Harkine in that generic, confusing world, defeating challenge after challenge. To me, this game was a stepping stone towards the true greatness, aka Dark Souls. Wouldn't recommend it to anyone, though, since there's now an abundance of Souls clones that are much more fun to play.
Yeah.
It's such an odd category of game, the I love this even though I know better now.
Yeah. Yeah, but, like if a game was your first exposure to a thing, it's going, you're going to hold other games like it against that, even if they're better. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I would not go back to Lords of the Fallen. I was about to say, I'd be curious, but no, I got to be honest with myself. Lords of the Fallen is not there. Yeah, like Martinez says, there are lots of other Souls likes to play now. Let's see, Jala. What does Ollie say?
Ollie says, Apocalypse on the PS1. It's a solid little third-person action game with quite a few control issues. It was mostly marketed as featuring Bruce Willis, and that caused a lot of people to overlook it. If you get past the awkward camera and strange button layout, you will have a good time.
Yeah, no, that was like the only advertising that they did was just a picture of Bruce Willis, like looking panicked at the camera.
What? That's not enough for you?
I was the mid-90s.
To be fair, Bruce Willis was pretty good in was it Journey to the West, Enslaved or whatever?
Was Bruce Willis in that?
Not officially.
Oh,
weird. Just that monkey looked so much like him.
Oh, yeah. Let's see, Dennis, what does Greg say?
Greg says, for all its promise and vision, Daggerfall is still riddled with bugs and gameplay issues even after years of fan patches. It's fun, but Morrowind is what the game tried to be.
And Morrowind is still janky to go back to if you try to go back to it now. I mean, like, that's probably the closest thing I have to an answer is probably Morrowind, because it's like so archaic at this point. But not because it's like bad for its time frame, but now it's just you can't go back to it because it's old as fuck.
Yeah. I especially wouldn't recommend somebody go back to Morrowind unmodded.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, like just interface mods are. I mean, that's how I did it with for WoW when we did Morrowind for that. Fuck, I need to go like read everything on TV Trips about Morrowind because I've missed that world.
I know. Man. I miss that world too, and that's the thing. I wish they would just like make a new game in Morrowind that's like, yeah.
Yeah, they need the Elder Scrolls just Morrowind and Elsewhere edition.
That would be badass.
Cat people run. Yeah. Let's see here. Brian writes, Destiny 2. It's probably my single most played game ever, or at the very least of my adult life. I adore the extremely rewarding gameplay, the lore that I love so much. I've purchased multiple published collections of it. All the wildly different things that you can do in a 2-hour play session. But I can never in good conscience look at a friend in the eye and say, hey, you should play Destiny with me. Destiny in 2020 for a new player is a confusing morass of nouns. And I like that nouns has been made into a proper noun by capitalizing it. That's very good. A confusing morass of nouns, of activities you have no idea why you should be doing, a massive pile of guns and quests and mods and perks with no direction. Hell, the various legacy campaigns are hidden on a vendor that a veteran player has no reason to visit, let alone a new one overwhelmed with 10,000 waypoints when they launch the game for the first time. That sounds miserable, and it seems like it's a game that you would need to play. Like, you know, you would need somebody to Sherpa you through it. However, it would be very, very frustrating because like I would go and like just do something that seemed really innocuous and everybody would yell at me for doing something, you know, but nobody does that. Like, well, I'm sorry. I haven't been around for all of the folkways that have developed.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It is. I love the metric though of like a variety of experiences that you can get out of a single session. Like I hadn't thought about that, but when I read it, I was like, yeah, that is something that I want from a game, that I can, you know, boot the game up and whatever mood I'm in, I can satisfy that within the genre of the game, without without feeling like it's hamstringing me into one particular way. Yeah. I didn't talk about Shadow of War this week, although I am still playing it, and I think that's something those games do well.
Yeah. Agreed. David, what does Roop say?
Roop says, Deadly Premonition on PC. Just don't even try to get it working. I feel like that's a shortcut. You can recommend it to anyone and feel confident that they'll never play it and then judge it.
But like you can make the recommendation. You just say, "Hey, Deadly Premonition," and here's the mod that the person who made DS Fix made. Like you can get it running. It's fine. Like you just have to download a mod to make it happen. And I mean, so I have an agenda by clarifying that because as many people as possible should play Deadly Premonition, but I'm biased.
Is that the survival horror Pokemon Snap?
No, that would be Fatal Frame Possibly based on that description.
Fatal Frame's definitely what I meant.
Yeah, Deadly Premonition is the open world, basically rip-off of Twin Peaks. Yeah.
And rip-off is not a derogative term here at all.
No, it's I love both of them. It is very consciously aping that flavor. Jala, what does Chris say?
Chris says, Alpha Protocol is a mess, but it's probably the best mess ever made. But it's still hard to recommend without a list of caveats and recommendations the length of the stand.
Yeah. Alpha Protocol is still very good. Just don't play it on a PC with mouse and keyboard. And
was it specifically the hacking minigame that was unplayable that way?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, Alpha Protocol and Deadly Premonition are two of my favorite games ever. So,
but I mean, it says something in the many hours of Duckfeed.tv network content that I've consumed that specific hang up of the Alpha Protocol trying to do that with a mouse and keyboard sticks out in my mind.
Yeah,
to the extent that it does.
Oh, Dennis, what does Rookie say?
Rookie says, Deadly Towers for the NES is so broken. I remembered thinking to myself, maybe I'm not old enough to get this when I played it as a child. As an adult, probably still not old enough to get it. I found a walkthrough on GameFAQs and found that somewhere deep under the bullshit was a slightly less broken game. Ooh, high praise. I can't in good conscience recommend it to anyone, not even for abject suffering, but something about it keeps me coming back. Now that I know what you're supposed to do, the game has a bit of that Dark Souls, I know my way around this impenetrable nonsense feel to it. Gaining mastery is fun regardless of the medium. That is so true.
Yeah, we did an episode of Abject Suffering about that game, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, about Deadly. It was super early. Let me see, when was that? Since we're looking at dates on things and realizing we will all soon be dust. That was episode 9, put out in May of 2013.
Oh, wow.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. I'm just going to go to sleep in my coffin now. Deadly Towers is janky and broken as all hell, but like weirdly, it was really ahead of its time in a lot of ways. It was super early. It was like 1984 was when it was developed in Japan.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Let's see. My answer for this now and for always will be Pathologic. I can't speak to Pathologic 2 because honestly, I haven't played that, even though I really, really want to. It's just a lot to go into it. It is a game that is miserable to play, but is honestly one of the the most just satisfying, literarily satisfying games I have played in my life. And every system and every part of the story is integrated to the point that existing in this world is miserable. And that's not going to be an easy sell for a lot of folks. So I don't even try. Watch summary videos explaining it. Pathologic is a masterpiece, and I, don't feel it necessary that everybody join me in the pit. I'm fine in the pit alone. Let's see. How about you, David?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I actually, to a certain degree, tend to be this ways with the Soulsborne games, just because I know they're games that I will praise very, very highly, but if someone went into them not knowing what they are, they could have a very bad time.
No.
Other than that, I mean, Army of Two is kind of always my answer for this sort of thing.
Army of Two is a good answer, I think. Yeah. Jala, how about you?
Well, I already said pretty much any game that I might possibly throw in there would be just because it's old and archaic at this point, or because, it's just really niche. Say, for example, Digimon Card Battle or Azure Dreams. Those are a couple of games I talk about pretty frequently as being two of my favorite games. And like, if you don't like card battle stuff, you're not going to like Digimon Card Battle. And if you don't like, roguelike monster collecting games, and then even if you do, like, there's such a long prologue, long intro scene for Azure Dreams, and it's like early PlayStation 1. So it's like hard to go back to at this point for a lot of people. Although once you get into the game proper, it's amazing. But, even now it's super fun to play, but it's just, there's stuff to keep in mind of like when it was released. Same thing with Morrowind. It's like hard to go back to it now, especially playing later entries in the series and stuff. I love that game. I love that world, but to recommend that to somebody else, it just kind of, lots of caveats. I wouldn't say that, oh, it's a broken piece of junk and I hate it, or, like for that or I love it, but everybody else would hate it and I would never recommend it to them. No, I can't really say that. I mean, I play games across a wide variety of different genres. So like, it's just a matter of, well, if you don't like a walking sim, don't play Apartment,
Yeah. It's not like, you would not recommend that kind of game to somebody who didn't like it, but it's not like, even if they were a fan, you would say, yeah, this is really good, but don't spend the time.
Yeah.
Kind of like, for me, like, if I knew somebody was really into walking sims, I would not tell them to play Dear Esther.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff like that. I can see what you mean.
So there's that. And by the way, nobody did recommend any eroge to me. I was like hoping somebody would, but I didn't get any recommendations on that. I was waiting. So I don't know I think it might just be, okay, I know somebody in the listenership has played one. It's just either it wasn't good, or they don't want to admit that they played it and they don't want to talk about it, or they don't think, or they don't think it might. Yeah, exactly. Or they don't think that it might be for me, so they are not recommending it because it might be one of those situations that would answer this question. So,
also as a network, we've spent like a decade like building up a brand where that kind of thing is bullshit.
Yeah,
so maybe
I know.
They're afraid to come forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, I am like against the grain in a lot of different ways about the network. I'm like the weird one out, in a lot of ways, just because of how I live my life. So, like I'm the exception, not the rule in this case. But if somebody were to want to recommend a game to me, they're perfectly welcome to private message me and tell me this recommendation. I will not be weird. I will not share it, like who recommended it or anything. I will just, it is confidential information. It is
on the flip side of that, Jala, you're allowed to try it just because you're curious. So I'll officially say you have my blessing to try it and then say that you got a PM from some rando and you're protecting their identity, and then you can have tried it.
I don't have to have a reason to try anything. No. I mean, like, I already played one and talked about it.
Yeah, she's on Front Street about it.
I don't have a problem just coming out and saying I did the thing. Guess what, guys? So, that's fine. Yep. Anyway, I might have to be out on my own for that one and try to figure it out on my own if there's anything worth playing for that. I don't know. We will see if I actually do decide to play another one, or if that was like the extent of it was the one that I played like an hour and then got a refund for. So
let's see. We already did David. Dennis.
Yeah, I can close this out. So mine, I guess, would be kind of cheating. Mine would be XCOM Enemy Unknown, the vanilla version without the Enemy Within expansion that is considered, perfect for the game. And it's purely because I spent so much time in Enemy Unknown pre-expansion and then kind of fell away from the game without ever really getting in, that even when I came back and tried playing Enemy Within, something felt off. Like it felt like cheating to have giant mechs, And I think it is accurate to say I never completed an Enemy Within run. Never saw it all the way through. Yeah.
Wow.
I've gotten to the big like Twist Central Base raid a couple of times, but I don't think I've gotten much farther past that.
Right.
Any of the times that I've played it, just because like my XCOM experience is a mechless psych it wasn't mutant.
Yeah, the gene
experience.
mods. Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that feels right. Even though I know if someone were coming to that game fresh, the like objectively right recommendation is play with Enemy Within.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I would not have thought to take that angle. Very cool. Thank you everybody who participated. If you would like to get in on this action, go to facebook.com/thelevelpodcast and look for the prompt to go up on Monday afternoons. The next episode has a number that is divisible by 5. So it will be a free play multiplayer. That's where you ask us the questions. So think about it and consider it, which you might ask. But otherwise, we hope to see you there.
The End Boss.
Now it is time for the End Boss, where we talk about the things that are happening in the world of video games that are exciting to us. Dennis, what's going on with Riot?
Riot is making a new game, you guys.
Oh, good.
And it has nothing to do with League?
Yeah, and it apparently has nothing to do with League. They've got, I think, Legends of Runeterra. Is that Dota? Is that the card game that they're coming out with? Is that something different?
The Dota card game is called Artifact, and that flopped very badly. I would not be
right,
surprised. Okay. Maybe Legends of Runeterra is the Hearthstone for League, but I am going on like half-read headlines.
So I'm getting my MOBAs confused here. Yes. So Riot is doing a card game called Legends of Runeterra that is very much from that world. Yeah. However, this Project A first-person shooter called Valorant, as was recently revealed, apparently is completely in its own universe, and as you mentioned, has nothing to do with League. Mm-hmm. And it looks good. Like, it looks like the right balance between a couple of popular shooters that all kind of have their own elements of fatigue to them, or parts of them that people are fatigued with. Mm-hmm. So it is more arena-ish combat, snappy, quick rounds like CSGO. However, it has kind of classes with abilities similar to Overwatch. Yeah. Time to kill is fast. Like a single bullet to the head will take you out more often than not.
Oh,
and
deal breaker.
See, that I have come to appreciate that on a different level, especially when a lot of the then abilities give you more verbs to manage line of sight and positioning and all that stuff. And the abilities are kind of balanced around this setup of time to kill. And so while matches are short, the preview that I read said specifically, like, a firefight actually does drag out sounds negative, but a firefight actually does take a significant period of time to resolve versus just being kind of over because everyone dies instantly. Yeah. And it's because of the abilities, and that adds a really interesting layer to it. Yeah. So I'm excited about this. This seems like a really good take on the objective shooter genre.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in motion, but the art style looks unique to me. Like there's definitely kind of an Overwatchness to it, but whereas Overwatch kind of has a Pixar kind of look to it, this seems like a little bit more like painterly is probably the wrong word, but it's all that I've got. Like there's some kind of shader going over this that makes it look.
I mean, it's Team Fortress 2-esque, right?
Yeah, but even Team Fortress 2 is pretty Pixar-y. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I should have had an actual comparison I wanted to make aside from what this didn't look like. But
it's halfway in between CS:GO and Team Fortress 2 in terms of cartooniness, which is not apparently at the bottom of Uncanny Valley. Like, this looks good.
Yeah, neat.
So I'm excited to see this develop. It's kind of really early. It's hard to make any pronouncements about it, but I am excited for big studios trying new IP. Like, that is increasingly becoming a rarity. Yeah, and it would have been very safe to do put this game in the League of Legends universe. But they're striking out in a new direction, and hopefully will not strike out with that direction.
Yeah, it's a bold move for them to try something with gameplay this time around.
they had to branch out from League. Like, it's bizarre that company existed for so long with just one product. especially with how big that company is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Jala, what's happening with Nintendo and Sony?
Well, it happened
30 years ago.
Yes, it happened forever ago. But in the 90s, early 90s, Nintendo and Sony teamed up to make one of the first CD-ROM gaming consoles. And nothing ever came of it other than some prototypes. And Nintendo went on to make the N64, and of course Sony made the PlayStation. But it was rumored that all of those prototypes, or about 200 of them, were destroyed. But Heritage Auction up in Dallas somehow came up with a genuine, fully functional prototype. This was called the Nintendo PlayStation Super NES CD-ROM prototype. So that's a lot of things. It had a slot for NES cartridges and a CD drive for disc-based games, but since no games were developed for the CD drive, it is limited to playing music. This module that they have was owned by the founder, president, and CEO of Sony, Olaf Olafsson, who enjoyed Advanta in 1998, and then left Advanta a year later, and then left his prototype behind when he left that company. So when Advanta filed for bankruptcy and auctioned off stuff in the office that included the prototype in with a bunch of random crap. So the current bid for that is $280,000 as of this recording. There are 3 days left on the auction, so by the time this drops, it will have been sold. But
it's crazy that there's another one of these because somebody found one in their attic.
Oh, did they? In their attic? That's weird. Okay.
Yeah, just like it just popped up, and I don't know what the chain of custody was for it, but like, you know, that has been like on tour with like Frank Cifaldi and Chris Kohler's like video game museum that has popped up at, you know, various, you know, like Portland Retro Games Expo and Midwest Gaming Classic, places like that. So like you can go and see the actual physical prototype. This one seems to be a little bit worse for the wear. Something that's cool, you can look up like, you know, presentation videos of like the effort that was put into making this functional again. Specifically because like basically capacitor rot had set in on the one that was found in the attic. And so like they had to like go in and like mess around with components on the board in order to get it to boot and all that stuff. It's a really cool story. And I am astounded that there's another one that is extant.
Wow.
This is cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's bizarre to see and to see in person.
It kind of reminds me of like what Sega was doing with all the various things they attached to the Genesis.
Yep. The Tower of Power. Cool. The Sony and Nintendo together at last. Let's see. I've got one. This is going to be short. A video game studio that I like, Frictional, the people who made the Amnesia games and Soma. They had a small like teaser image a few months ago for their new game, but no real details or things like that. However, they, since that time, have been running an ARG, and people have dug up an unlisted YouTube video that shows a teaser for Frictional's new game. The only title that is associated with this is the phrase, "I am Tassi." Tassi being a name, Tasi. And the footage, like, it's a first-person view of a woman running panicked through a desert toward, like, a glowing column of light in the distance, kind of saying her own name over and over again, saying, you know, "I am Tassi, I am still Tassi," as a sandstorm is kicked up. And I'm here for it. There are no details aside from the fact that this game is probably like right on the cusp of being announced in full. And yeah, I want more Frictional.
Yay!
Yeah. And that is my story. Very quick, excited for them to take another bite at the apple. And then David, how about you? What'd you bring?
Yeah, so apparently there is going to be a Monster Hunter movie, a live-action Monster Hunter movie. It's going to star Mila
Jovovich, the main actress from the Resident Evil movies. She plays Alice.
Right. And as awesome as those movies were, it's maybe more importantly going to star also Tony Jaa from Ong-Bak fame.
That's cool.
But most importantly, it is properly handling the most important element of Monster Hunter, which is having weapons that are at least twice as tall as you are and are made 90% out of teeth.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's all I got.
That's coming out this year? Yeah, September the 4th. Oh, yes, and of course, this. I should have known this was going to be directed by Paul W.S. Anderson because it has Mila Jovovich starring in it. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I saw the promo images, and I thought that it was a Photoshop. I thought somebody was.
Nope.
I thought somebody was yanking my chain, but yeah, it's a thing they decided to do.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah.
I don't think it looks good, but that's just me.
Well, and someone pointed out that like the sword that she's wielding, I guess, is technically like the beginner weapon. And David, you can confirm this. But they're like, yeah, that's actually not a great weapon for her to have.
Noob trash, but it's iconic. Yeah. Like I look at that and I think, oh yeah, that's some Monster Hunter shit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like this could be the ideal video game movie in that it's a video game that has an innate feel of its own. It's not trying to like replicate movie developer really liked.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it has no plot. So just as long as it has cool weapons and monsters, and some of those monsters get hunted, maybe a couple of adorable cat people.
But here's the thing: the plot they chose to insert is like real world special forces people get warped into another dimension.
What?
Where does that fit into the Monster Hunter world?
That is really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to keep an eye on this because I don't know. Is there a video? Is there a trailer out for this, or do we just have promo images? Yeah, we will.
I think just promos.
We will keep our ear to the ground. Good. May God have mercy on our souls. How do you guys feel about buttoning it up?
Buttons.
The credit.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this episode, Level 319. I appreciate you taking the time. I also appreciate you putting up with us, figuring out the audio stuff. I think we've got it mostly figured out. I am overall pleased with the way that this new setup sounds for us. So, yeah, I didn't plan the end of that sentence when I started it. We'll be back next week with more of this. The usual admin stuff. What I do want to do is point you to the Duckfeed YouTube channel. So that is youtube.com/Duckfeed.tv. That is where my archives of streams go up, in addition to the Hexcrank first hour videos that I do. I didn't talk about it, but I played the first hour of the Blair Witch game from toward the end of last year and uploaded that. So that video is going to be going out this week. Yeah, it's a cool place to be, and I would recommend people check that out.
Yay!
Yeah. But otherwise, the usual stuff that you can do. Am I forgetting anything important?
No.
Okay. I've been Kole Ross. You can watch my streams on Twitch at Duckfeed.tv.
I've been Dennis Furia, Deck of Wonders on Twitch.
I've been David Moneysmith on the planet Earth.
I'm Jala-chan in all the places.
And stick around for some titles. Okay, who has titles?
I only have a couple.
Okay.
Bobbing and squeaking.
Okay.
And Ambience Ambulance.
Ambient Ambulance. Dennis, what you got?
Yep, I also had the Ambience Ambulance.
Okay.
And that was the only one I captured.
Okay. David?
I got nothing.
Okay. I only had one, the intern's panda suit. But I feel bad because that's the thing that I said. How do you guys feel about it? Ambulance by the votes?
You also said that one, but that's also fine because
Is it the ambient ambulance or the ambience?
He said ambience originally.
Oh, Ambience Ambulance?
Ambience.
Okay, cool. All right.
There we go.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Which,
Cool.
I think is appropriate for all of our various auditory
Yeah.
adventures here.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to go. I've got a long day tomorrow stressing out about the primaries. So,
Yay.
yeah, yay.
I know.
Cool. Have a good
I
night,
already
everybody.
voted early.
Oh, that's good. Oh, yeah.
See y'all.
All right.
All right.
Later, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.